Captain Han Ji-ho stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, staring at the empty space where the colony should have been. His hands gripped the metal railing so hard his knuckles turned white. Behind him, his crew worked in silence, their faces pale with shock. "Scan again," Ji-ho said quietly. His voice was steady, but inside his heart was racing. The young officer at the scanner station looked up, her eyes red. "Sir, there's nothing left. The entire colony is gone." Ji-ho closed his eyes for a moment. 12,000 people. 12,000 human beings who had been living peaceful lives just hours ago. Families, children, workers who had traveled across the stars to build something new. "Look for survivors," he ordered. "Search every piece of debris. If anyone is alive out there, I want them found." Dr. Park Minji entered the bridge, her tablet clutched against her chest. She was the ship's lead scientist, always calm and logical. But today even she looked shaken. "Captain, I've analyzed the debris pattern. This wasn't an accident. The colony was deliberately destroyed." "Show me," Ji-ho said. Minji brought up images on the main screen. Pieces of buildings, ships, and structures floated in space like broken toys. The blast patterns are consistent with military weapons. High-energy plasma cannons, probably from capital ships. They targeted the residential areas first, then the evacuation centers. A cold anger settled in Ji-ho's chest. "They killed civilians on purpose." "Yes, sir. And look at this." Minji pulled up another image. "We found a black box from one of the evacuation ships. It recorded everything." The bridge fell silent as the recording played. The screen showed families running toward evacuation ships. Children crying. Parents holding babies. Then the sky lit up with fire. Massive ships appeared overhead, their hulls covered in scales that gleamed like metal. The Velkrani. A voice came through the recording speaking in the harsh language of the Velkrani. The ship's computer translated it automatically. "This territory belongs to the Velkrani Imperium. These weak creatures will learn their place." The evacuation ships tried to launch. The Velkrani ships fired again and again, turning them into clouds of debris. People screamed. The recording cut to static. Nobody on the bridge spoke. Ji-ho felt something break inside him. Not his will. Not his strength. Something else. His faith that the galaxy was a fair place. His belief that advanced civilizations were somehow better than humanity's violent past. "Save that recording," he said. "Make copies. Send them to Earth immediately." "Sir," his communication officer called out. "We're receiving a message. It's from a Velkrani ship. Put it through." The screen changed to show a Velkrani commander. The alien was tall and covered in dark green scales. Its eyes were cold and reptilian. It looked at Ji-ho the way someone might look at an insect. "Human vessel," the Velkrani said. "You are in Velkrani territory. Depart immediately or be destroyed." Ji-ho stepped forward. "This was our colony. You murdered 12,000 people. Civilians, families." The Velkrani made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your kind does not belong in this sector. We claimed this world. The creatures living here refused to leave. We removed them. This is the way of the strong." "You killed children," Ji-ho said, his voice low and dangerous. "We eliminated obstacles. Your species is weak. You have been in space for a penis 30 years. You know nothing of galactic law. The strong take what they want. The weak accept their place." The Velkrani leaned closer to the camera. "Take your small ship and run back to your world. Tell your leaders that the Velkrani Imperium has spoken. If you challenge us, we will erase your entire species." The transmission ended. Ji-ho stood very still. His crew watched him waiting. They had all heard the threat. They had all seen the bodies floating in space. "Helm," Ji-ho said. "Plot a course back to Earth, maximum speed." "Sir?" his first officer asked. "We're leaving?" "Yes," Ji-ho said. "We're going to deliver that recording personally, and then we're coming back with a fleet." 3 days later, Ambassador Choi Dae-ho stood before the Galactic Council. The council chamber was enormous, with representatives from hundreds of species arranged in a great circle. Choi was a small figure in the center, but his voice was strong. "I come before this council to report a massacre," he began. He played the recording from Kepler 442b. The council members watched in silence as human families died on screen. When it ended, Choi continued. 12,000 human beings were murdered by the Velkrani Imperium. They targeted civilians deliberately. This was not war. This was butchery. High Chancellor Vex Thor of the Velkrani Imperium rose from his seat. He was even larger than the commander in the recording, covered in dark red scales that marked his high status. The humans occupied a world claimed by the Velkrani. They were warned. They refused. We acted within our rights. You murdered children, Choi shouted. We removed obstacles, Vexthor said calmly. The Galactic Council recognizes the right of established powers to defend territorial claims. Humanity is a newcomer species. You have no significant territory, no powerful allies, no military strength worth mentioning. He looked down at Choi with obvious contempt. You are soft-skinned primitives who barely understand space travel. You should be grateful we only destroyed one colony. Murmurs ran through the council. Some species looked uncomfortable. Others nodded in agreement with Vexthor. The council leader, an ancient being made of crystal, spoke. The council has reviewed the evidence. While the loss of life is regrettable, the Velkrani claim to that system was filed 3 years before the human colony was established. This appears to be a territorial dispute, not a criminal matter. Territorial dispute? Choi could barely control his anger. They killed 12,000 people. The galaxy is not always gentle, the council leader said. Perhaps humans should be more careful about where they settle. We advise both parties to avoid further conflict. This matter is closed. Choi stood there, disbelief on his face. The council was dismissing this. They were going to do nothing. Vexthor laughed, the sound echoing through the chamber. Go home, human. Tell your people to stay in their corner of space. If you bother the Velkrani again, we will visit your homeworld, and we will show you what real power looks like. Choi left the council chamber with his head held high, but his hands were shaking. Not from fear. From rage, Commander Lee Yuna met him outside. She ran Earth's defense network, in charge of all military operations. I watched the broadcast, she said. The council won't help us. No, Choi said. They won't. Then what do we do? Choi looked at her. We go home. We tell our people what happened, and we let them decide. 2 weeks later, the vote was unanimous. Every nation on Earth, every colony, every ship and station. Humanity spoke with one voice for the first time in its history. Earth's president stood before the cameras. Behind her were the leaders of every human government united. The Velkrani Imperium has murdered 12,000 of our people. They have threatened our entire species. The Galactic Council has failed to provide justice. She paused, her face hard. Therefore, the United Earth government formally declares a state of war between humanity and the Velkrani Imperium. We will not forgive. We will not forget. And we will not stop until justice is served. Across the galaxy, species stopped to watch the news. Most thought it was a joke. Humans declaring war on the Velkrani? It would be a massacre. The war would be over in weeks. High Chancellor Vexthor heard the news and laughed. These fools, he said to his advisors. They dare challenge the Velkrani? We will crush them like insects. Prepare a fleet. We will teach humanity its place in the galaxy. On Earth, Admiral Kim Hyen looked at the declaration of war and nodded slowly. She turned to her staff. Activate all defense protocols. Recall every ship. Call up the reserves. She looked at the star map showing Velkrani territory. They think they know us because we've been in space for 30 years. They're wrong. They have no idea what we really are. Colonel Shin Junho stood in the briefing room with his special operations teams, hard men and women who had trained for decades. The war has started, he told them. Time to show the galaxy what humans do to anyone who hurts our families. The Velkrani thought they had declared war on a weak species. They had no idea they had just made the worst mistake in their civilization's long history. They were about to learn what happens when you threaten humanity. War Marshal Krelnak studied the report about Earth's declaration of war and couldn't stop laughing. Around him, his officers shared his amusement. The idea was ridiculous. Humanity declaring war on the Velkrani Imperium was like a mouse challenging a lion. How many ships do they have? He asked his intelligence officer. Approximately 800 combat vessels, Marshal. Most are small. Their largest ships are a penis half the size of our cruisers. Krelnak nodded. And we have? Over 10,000 warships, Marshal. Our smallest cruiser outguns their largest battleship. Then why are we even discussing this? Krelnak stood up, his scales gleaming in the light. I will take a simple expeditionary fleet. 200 ships. We will crush their pathetic armada and occupy their homeworld within a month. High Chancellor Vexthor wants to make an example of them. We will give him one. Across the galaxy, species watched and waited. The Galactic Council had established betting pools on how long humanity would last. Most bets gave them less than 3 weeks, but there were a few who didn't bet. The Ashanti Collective, a peaceful species of scholars, sent observers. They wanted to study what would happen when an aggressive species fought humans. They had read Earth's history files. What they found there had troubled them. On Earth, Dr. Park Minji stood before the War Council. She had spent weeks preparing this briefing. "The Velcrani are coming," she said. "They think this will be easy. They've studied our technology and found it inferior. They've counted our ships and found us outnumbered. They've looked at our 30 years in space and assumed we're inexperienced." She pulled up an image on the screen. "They've made a critical mistake. They've judged us by our spacefaring history. They should have judged us by our entire history." Admiral Kim Hyan leaned forward. "Explain." "The Velcrani have been a spacefaring civilization for 3,000 years. In that time, they've fought 12 wars. All of them were fleet battles, formation fighting, honor-bound combat between military forces." Minji changed the image to show Earth's history. "We've been in space for 30 years, but we've been fighting each other for 10,000 years. We've had thousands of wars, world wars, civil wars, guerrilla wars, wars in jungles, deserts, mountains, and cities. We've invented every type of warfare imaginable." Colonel Shin Junho smiled grimly. "They fight to win battles. We fight to win wars." "Exactly," Minji said. "The Velcrani don't understand total war. They don't understand asymmetric warfare. They've never faced an enemy that refuses to fight fair." "Then we won't fight fair," Kim Hyun said simply. "We'll fight to win." The first battle came 3 weeks later. War Marshal Krelnak's fleet arrived at New Busan, a human mining colony on the edge of Earth's territory. He expected to find frightened civilians and maybe a few patrol ships. Instead, he found Captain Han Jiho's task force waiting for him. "Human vessel," Krelnak broadcast. "Surrender now and we will spare your lives. Resist and die." Jiho's response was simple. "Come and take us." The Velcrani fleet moved forward in perfect formation, their ships arranged in traditional battle lines. It was impressive. It was orderly. It was exactly what Jiho had hoped for. "All ships," Jiho ordered. "Execute Plan Chaos." The human ships broke apart in every direction. They didn't maintain formation. They didn't fight in lines. They scattered like startled birds, moving in seemingly random patterns. Krelnak watched in confusion. "What are they doing? This is madness. They've broken formation completely." His tactical officer looked worried. "Marshal, I can't predict their movements. There's no pattern." "Then destroy them one by one," Krelnak ordered. But it wasn't that simple. The human ships moved fast, using the asteroid field around New Busan for cover. They appeared from behind rocks, fired missiles and railguns, then disappeared again. They didn't stay to fight. They hit and ran. "Cowards!" Krelnak shouted. "Stand and fight." But the humans didn't stand and fight. They kept moving, kept attacking, kept disappearing. The Velcrani ships, designed for formation battles, couldn't adapt quickly enough. Their formations began to break as captains tried to chase individual human vessels. Then the real attack began. Colonel Shin Junho's special operations teams launched from hidden positions in the asteroid field. Small assault ships, barely larger than shuttles, accelerated toward the Velcrani cruisers. "What are those?" Krelnak demanded. "Boarding craft, Marshal. They're trying to board our ships. Impossible. Our shields will destroy them." But the human boarding craft were fast and small. They slipped through gaps in the shields, attached themselves to Velcrani hulls, and burned through. Marines in combat armor poured inside. The Velcrani had never fought like this. Their warriors were trained for ship-to-ship combat, not boarding actions. The human Marines were trained for both. They fought with a ferocity that shocked the Velcrani defenders. They used explosives in the corridors. They vented atmosphere without warning. They took no prisoners. One Velcrani cruiser went dark as the humans captured it, then another, then a third. Krelnak watched his perfect fleet falling apart. "All ships retreat to safe distance. Reform the lines." But as his ships tried to pull back, a human mining vessel appeared. The Fortune's Edge was old and battered, a simple cargo ship. Its captain, a man named Cho Minho, had refused to evacuate when the battle started. Now his ship, damaged and burning, turned toward the Velcrani destroyer pursuing it. "Attention Velcrani vessel," Minho broadcast. "This is for Kepler 442b. The Fortune's Edge accelerated to full speed. The Velkrani destroyer tried to destroy it, but Minho's ship was already too close. The two vessels collided in a massive explosion that tore both ships apart. Across the battlefield, human ships broadcast Minho's final words. "This is for Kepler 442b. The message was clear. Humans would not retreat. They would not surrender. They would fight to the death, taking as many enemies with them as possible. Krelnok's fleet retreated after losing 80 ships. The war marshal sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. He had started with 200 ships and overwhelming superiority. He was leaving with a penis 120. "How?" he whispered. "How did this happen?" His intelligence officer looked pale. "Marshal, I've analyzed their tactics. The humans weren't fighting randomly. Every move was calculated. They used strategies from something called guerrilla warfare. They targeted our command ships first. They aimed for maximum disruption, not maximum kills. But they're primitives," Krelnok said. "They've been in space for 30 years. Sir, I've been reading their historical files." The officer pulled up images on the screen. "They've been doing this to each other for thousands of years. Something called World War II, Vietnam, Afghanistan. They have entire libraries on asymmetric warfare, siege tactics, psychological operations. They're not primitive at all. They're experts." On the colony world of Taysan, the Velkrani had successfully landed occupation forces. They controlled the major cities and thought they had won. Then Nasomin changed everything. Nasomin had been a teacher before the war. She taught history to children. When the Velkrani came, she organized the civilians into resistance cells. She taught them lessons from Earth's past, how the French resistance fought the Nazis, how the Viet Cong fought the Americans, how insurgents around the world had defeated larger, stronger armies. The Velkrani patrols started disappearing. Occupation troops found themselves ambushed in city streets. Supply convoys were attacked by civilians with improvised weapons. The Velkrani tried to respond with force, but the humans melted away, only to attack again somewhere else. The Velkrani commander on Taysan sent desperate messages. "We control the cities, but nothing else. The humans are everywhere and nowhere. We cannot fight them." Admiral Kim Hyan read the battle reports with satisfaction. The Velkrani had expected a quick, clean war. Instead, they were getting a long, dirty struggle. "Perfect, send this message to all human forces," she ordered. "The enemy expects us to fight like them, in neat formations, following rules, showing honor. We won't. We'll fight like humans have always fought. We'll use every advantage, every trick, every tactic we've learned in 10,000 years of warfare. The Velkrani want war? We'll show them what war really means." Lieutenant Baehyun flew her starfighter through a Velkrani battle group, missiles tracking her from all directions. She didn't panic. She had trained for this. She dove toward a Velkrani battleship, flying so close to its hull that the enemy missiles couldn't follow without hitting their own ship. She pulled up at the last second, watching the missiles crash into the battleship's armor. "Tactic learned from World War II fighter aces," she reported calmly. "Still works in space." The Galactic Council watched the war with growing concern. This wasn't going the way they had predicted. The Velkrani weren't crushing humanity in weeks. Instead, the war was expanding, intensifying, becoming bloodier every day. The Ashanti observers sent reports. "The humans fight differently than any species we've encountered. They don't seek honorable battle. They seek total victory. They don't care if their tactics are considered crude or dishonorable. They only care if they work." High Chancellor Vexthor read the reports from the front with growing anger. How are these primitives resisting? They should be defeated already. His advisors had no good answers. The truth was simple but hard to accept. High Chancellor Vexthor stood before the Velkrani High Command, his rage barely contained. 6 months had passed since the war began. 6 months that should have seen humanity crushed. Instead, the humans were still fighting, still resisting, still winning battles they had no right to win. "I am committing the main battle fleet," Vexthor announced. 3,000 ships. We will sweep through human space and end this embarrassment once and for all. His commanders nodded, but Vexthor could see doubt in their eyes. They had all read the reports. The humans were different. They fought in ways the Velkrani couldn't predict or counter. "The humans have a few hundred ships left," one admiral pointed out. "How are they still fighting?" "Because they refuse to die like civilized beings," Vexthor growled. "They ram our ships when they run out of weapons. They board our vessels and fight in the corridors. They hide in asteroid fields and ambush our patrols. They fight without honor, without rules, without mercy. Then we will show them what overwhelming force means, another admiral said. 3,000 ships against their few hundred. The numbers alone will break them. But engineer Kang Jisoo had other plans. She stood in the secret weapons facility beneath Seoul, surrounded by prototypes and designs. For months, she and her team had been working day and night, creating new weapons based on old human ideas. "Show me what you have," Admiral Kim Hyun said as she walked through the facility. Jisoo smiled. "We've been reverse engineering Velcrani technology and improving it. The aliens are advanced, but they're conservative. They've been using the same weapon designs for centuries. Apenas had 30 years in space, so we're not bound by tradition." She pulled up a hologram of a sleek weapon. "This is a railgun. It uses electromagnetic force to launch projectiles at incredible speeds. The Velcrani rely on energy shields that deflect plasma and laser weapons. Railguns shoot solid metal. Their shields can't stop them." "How effective?" Kim Hyun asked. "In tests, a single railgun round punched through 3 Velcrani shield systems and destroyed a cruiser." Jisoo's smile widened. "And we've mounted them on every ship in the fleet." She showed another design. "This is our new stealth system. The Velcrani detect ships using traditional sensors. We've adapted submarine stealth technology for space. Our ships can hide in sensor shadows, mask their heat signatures, and appear on sensors as asteroids or debris." Kim Hyun looked at the designs with approval. "When can we deploy these?" "They're already being installed, Admiral. Every human ship is being upgraded." Lieutenant Bae Hyun led her squadron through the Velcrani supply line, her fighter's new stealth system active. The enemy sensors showed nothing. Her squadron appeared as Apena's harmless rocks drifting through space. "Target the supply convoys," she ordered. "Remember the tactics. Hit fast, hit hard, disappear." The Velcrani supply ships never saw them coming. Bae's squadron appeared from nowhere, railguns tearing through shields and hulls. Within minutes, 20 supply vessels were destroyed. Before the Velcrani escorts could respond, the human fighters vanished again, their stealth systems hiding them in the darkness of space. "This is Hunter Squadron," Bae reported. "Supply line Alpha is broken. Moving to target Beta." Across human space, similar attacks were happening. Small, fast human ships struck Velcrani supply lines, communication relays, and isolated patrols. They used stealth, speed, and surprise. They fought like sharks in the ocean, appearing from the depths to strike and then vanishing. The Velcrani fleet tried to respond. But how do you fight an enemy you cannot see? Captain Han Jiho's ship, the Defiant, had been heavily modified. It now bristled with railguns and carried the best stealth systems Earth could build. Jiho took his ship deep into Velcrani territory, hunting. "Sir, we have 3 Velcrani cruisers ahead," his sensor officer reported. "They're in formation, standard patrol pattern." "Perfect," Jiho said. "Take us closer. Stay in stealth mode." The Defiant drifted toward the Velcrani ships like a ghost. When they were in position, Jiho gave the order. "Fire!" Railguns thundered. Metal slugs traveling at impossible speeds smashed through shields and armor. The first Velcrani cruiser exploded before its crew even knew they were under attack. The second cruiser's engines were destroyed, leaving it drifting and helpless. The third cruiser tried to turn and fight, but more railgun rounds tore through its bridge. All 3 cruisers destroyed or disabled, the tactical officer reported. "No damage to us." "Move to the next target," Jiho ordered. "We have a lot of work to do." The Velcrani couldn't understand what was happening. Their ships were disappearing. Their supply lines were collapsing. Their patrols were being destroyed by an enemy they couldn't find. High Priestess Melsara of the Ashanti Collective watched the war with deep concern. Her people had been observing both sides, trying to understand this conflict. What she saw troubled her. The Velcrani fight according to rules, she told her fellow observers. They follow traditions of warfare passed down through generations. They believe in honor and fair combat and civilized rules. "And the humans?" another observer asked. "The humans don't care about rules," Melsara said quietly. "They care about winning. They use tactics the Velcrani consider dishonorable. Stealth attacks, ambushes, targeting supply lines instead of fighting battles. The Velcrani see this as cowardly. The humans see it as smart." She pulled up recordings of human battles. "Look at this." The humans broadcast psychological warfare messages to Velcrani ships. They tell them about human history, about battles where outnumbered humans defeated larger armies, about sieges that lasted years. about guerrilla wars that never ended. They're breaking the Velkrani's will to fight. One broadcast showed a human officer reading from a history book. During World War II, the Soviet city of Stalingrad was surrounded by enemy forces. The Soviets fought for every building, every room, every inch of ground. The battle lasted 5 months. The Soviets won. The officer looked at the camera. The Velkrani think 6 months of war is a long time. We're a penis getting started. Another broadcast showed images from Vietnam. A small country fought the most powerful military in human history. They used the jungle, the terrain, the support of their people. They fought for 20 years. They won. The message was clear. Time is on our side. We can do this forever. The Velkrani soldiers hearing these broadcasts began to understand something terrifying. The humans weren't going to surrender. They weren't going to give up. They would fight for years, decades, generations if necessary. Admiral Kim Hyon launched Operation Payback. It was the largest coordinated human offensive of the war. 12 strike forces hit 12 different Velkrani military installations simultaneously. Colonel Shin Junho led the attack on the Velkrani Forward Command Base at Rigel Station. His Marines used new powered armor designed for boarding actions. They cut through the station's hull and poured inside. The Velkrani defenders fought hard, but they weren't prepared for human close-quarters combat tactics. Shin's Marines moved through the station like they had trained for urban warfare on Earth. They used flashbangs, smoke grenades, and breaching charges. They cleared rooms with brutal efficiency. Command center secured, Shin reported. We have access to their communication network. Copy that, Kim Hyon replied. Download everything. Then destroy it. Within hours, all 12 targets were hit. The Velkrani lost communication hubs, supply depots, repair facilities, and command centers. Their military infrastructure in the region collapsed. High Chancellor Vexthor received the reports and finally understood. The humans weren't fighting a war. They were fighting total war. They were targeting everything that supported the Velkrani military. They were fighting not a penis to win battles, but to destroy the enemy's ability to make war. This is not how civilized species fight, he said to his advisors. Perhaps humans are not civilized by our standards, one advisor suggested. Carefully. No, another advisor said. They are civilized. They have culture, art, science, but they are also something else. They are survivors. Every war in their history was a fight for survival. They have learned to do whatever it takes to win. The war reached its crisis point at Proxima Station. The Velkrani had built a massive forward command base there, coordinating their entire war effort. If it fell, their invasion would collapse. Admiral Kim Hyon looked at the strategic map. Proxima Station was defended by 500 Velkrani warships and had shields that could withstand sustained bombardment for weeks. We can't take it with a frontal assault, her tactical officer said. We'd lose every ship. Then we won't use a frontal assault, Kim Hyon said. She turned to her staff. Prepare a special operation. We're going to do something the Velkrani have never seen before. She gathered every available ship. 300 human vessels against 500 Velkrani. The numbers were bad, but Kim Hyon wasn't planning a normal battle. All ships will carry boarding teams, she ordered. When we engage, half our fleet will provide covering fire. The other half will ram the station's shields at full speed. Her officers stared at her in shock. Ram the shields? That will destroy those ships? Yes, Kim Hyon said quietly. It will, but it will also overload the shields for Angevir 30 seconds. That's when our assault teams go in. We trade ships for an opening. It was a terrible plan. It meant sacrificing 150 ships. The war entered its second year with no end in sight. The galaxy watched in disbelief as humans continued to fight the mighty Velkrani Imperium to a standstill. What was supposed to be a quick punishment had become a grinding conflict that was bleeding both sides. Dr. Yoon Taeyang sat in his office at Earth's Strategic Command, surrounded by files on Velkrani culture and history. As a historian, he had been tasked with finding the enemy's weaknesses. After months of study, he believed he had found something important. The Velkrani have a fatal flaw, he explained to Admiral Kim Hyon. Their entire society is based on honor and tradition. They fight according to rules that have been established for thousands of years. When we break those rules, it doesn't appease anger them. It confuses them at a deep cultural level. Kim Hyon leaned forward. Explain. In Velkrani culture, war is supposed to be a test of strength between military forces. The stronger side wins, the weaker side surrenders, and both sides maintain honor. They have rules about how battles are fought, how enemies are treated, how victories are celebrated. Yoon pulled up cultural files. When we refuse to follow these rules, when we ram our ships into their stations, when we fight in ways they consider dishonorable, we're not Apenas defeating them militarily. We're breaking their understanding of how war works. So we keep doing exactly what we're doing, Kim Hyeon said. Yes, but we can do more. We can target their cultural weaknesses directly, make them question their entire way of warfare. Commander Go Yoonji had been running human intelligence operations since the war began. Her network of spies and hackers had infiltrated Velkrani communications. Now she was reading their internal messages, and what she found was revealing. The Velkrani High Command is fracturing, she reported to the War Council. Some commanders want to negotiate peace. Others want to escalate and use weapons of mass destruction against human worlds. They're arguing with each other instead of fighting us. Can we make this worse? Colonel Shin Junho asked with a grim smile. Already working on it, Go Yoonji said. We're broadcasting their internal disagreements across their fleet. Making sure every Velkrani soldier knows their leaders are divided. It's destroying their morale. The strategy was working. Velkrani ships began hesitating in battle. Some retreated when they should have advanced. Others ignored orders from commanders they didn't trust. Admiral Kim Hyeon saw the opening and prepared Operation Payback 2. This would be the largest human offensive yet. Simultaneous strikes against 12 more Velkrani military installations, deeper in their territory than humans had ever gone before. We're going to hit them everywhere at once, Kim Hyun told her fleet commanders. They won't know where to defend. They'll panic. And panic will break them faster than any weapon we have. Captain Han Ji-ho received his assignment. His task force would strike the Velkrani shipyard at Kepler 90. It was one of their primary military construction facilities. Destroying it would cripple their ability to replace losses. This is deep in enemy territory, his first officer pointed out. We'll be surrounded. That's the point, Ji-ho said. We hit them where they think they're safe, where they're not expecting us. We show them nowhere is safe anymore. On the colony world of Taisan, Nasomin's resistance had grown from a few hundred civilians to thousands. The Velkrani occupation was failing. They controlled Apenas, a few fortified areas now, trapped in bases while humans owned the countryside and cities. Nasomin stood before her fighters, ordinary people who had become warriors. Teachers, workers, parents who had learned to fight. The Velkrani came here thinking they could take our world, she said. They thought we would surrender like civilized people. But we're human. We don't surrender. We don't give up. We fight until we win or until we're dead. She raised her weapon. Tonight we attack their main base. We're going to drive them off our world. The attack came at midnight. Thousands of human fighters using tactics learned from history. They cut power lines, destroyed communications, launched coordinated strikes from every direction. The Velkrani defenders, already demoralized and frightened, broke and ran. By dawn, Tayson was free. Nasomin stood in the planetary capital, watching the last Velkrani ships flee into orbit. Her people cheered, but she felt Apenas tired. So many had died to reach this moment. Operation Payback 2 launched across a front spanning hundreds of light years. Human strike forces hit Velkrani targets simultaneously. The enemy, already spread thin and divided, couldn't respond effectively. Ji-ho's task force reached Kepler 90 and found it defended by Apenas 30 ships. The shipyard's main fleet had been pulled away to defend other targets. All ships attack, Ji-ho ordered. The battle was short and brutal. Human railguns tore through Velkrani shields. Boarding teams captured key ships. Within hours, the shipyard was burning. Years of construction, hundreds of ships in various stages of completion, all destroyed. But as Ji-ho's fleet prepared to leave, something unexpected happened. A Velkrani battleship broadcasting a white flag signal approached. Human vessel, this is Submarshal Verkoth of the Velkrani Navy. I wish to speak with your commander. Ji-ho tensed. This could be a trap. This is Captain Han Ji-ho, what do you want? Verkoth appeared on screen. He was older than most Velkrani Ji-ho had seen. His scales faded with age. He looked tired. I want to surrender my battle group to you, Verkoth said simply. Ji-ho stared. Why? Because this war is wrong. Because your people were attacked without cause. Because my government murdered civilians and then tried to exterminate you when you sought justice. Verkoth's voice was heavy with emotion. I am a warrior. I have fought in many campaigns. But I fight for honor, not for slaughter. What my people did to yours was not war, it was murder. You're Velkrani, Jiho said. You expect me to trust you? No. I expect you to accept my surrender and take my ships as prisoners of war. We will not fight you anymore. Verkoth looked directly at the camera. During your attack on the shipyard, my ships could have fired on your assault teams. We did not. You attacked military targets only. You did not fire on civilian areas of the shipyard. This showed more honor than my own government has shown. Jiho made a decision that would change the war. I accept your surrender, Sub-Marshal. Power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted to human space. The news of Verkoth's surrender spread across the galaxy like fire. A Velkrani officer, a decorated warrior with centuries of service, had surrendered to humans. Not because he was defeated in battle, but because he believed the humans were right. High Chancellor Vexthor was furious. Verkoth is a traitor. Any Velkrani who follows his example will be executed. But the damage was done. More Velkrani officers began to question the war. If Verkoth, a hero of the Imperium, believed the humans were justified, perhaps they were. The Galactic Council could no longer ignore the war. High Priestess Melsara of the Ashanti stood before the council and delivered a scathing report. This war was started by Velkrani aggression, she said. They massacred human civilians and then threatened the entire human species. When humans sought justice, this council did nothing. Now we watch as two species tear each other apart, and still we do nothing. The council does not interfere in wars between member species, the council leader said. Then perhaps the council is useless, Melsara replied coldly. The humans have shown remarkable restraint. They target military objectives. They accept surrenders. They treat prisoners according to galactic law. Meanwhile, the Velkrani threaten to use weapons of mass destruction. If this council will not act, then other species will. The Ashanti Collective is prepared to ally with humanity. Other species began to speak up. The tide was turning. The galaxy was beginning to see humans not as primitive upstarts, but as a species fighting a justified war against an aggressor. High Chancellor Vexthor saw his support crumbling. In desperation, he made a final decision. We will strike at Earth itself, he announced to his remaining loyal commanders. We will take our entire remaining fleet, breach their defenses, and occupy their homeworld. Once we hold Earth, the humans will have no choice but to surrender. It was a desperate plan, but Vexthor saw no other option. The war was destroying his empire. His military was fracturing. His allies were abandoning him. Only a decisive victory could save the Velkrani Imperium. He gathered every available ship. Over 1,000 warships, the largest force the Velkrani had ever assembled. They would strike at Earth in one massive assault. Commander Go Yunji's intelligence network detected the fleet movement. They're coming for Earth, she reported. Everything they have left. Admiral Kim Hyon looked at the strategic display. The Velkrani were throwing everything into one final attack. If they succeeded, the war was lost. If they failed, the Velkrani Imperium would be finished. Recall every ship, she ordered. Every vessel, every station, every defense platform. We're going to make our stand at Earth. Lieutenant Bae Hyun received the recall order while on patrol near the edge of human space. She looked at her squadron, seeing the determination in every pilot's face. They're coming for our home, she said simply. Time to show them why that's a bad idea. Set course for Earth. Maximum speed. Across human space, ships turned toward home. Colony defense forces. Patrol vessels. Mining ships fitted with weapons. The Galactic Council chamber was silent as High Chancellor Vexthor was led in, his hands bound. The once proud leader of the Velkrani Imperium looked diminished somehow, his dark red scales dull under the lights. Around the chamber, representatives from hundreds of species watched. Ambassador Choi Daiho stood in the center of the chamber, no longer the small, ignored figure from 2 years ago. Now he commanded respect, fear even. High Chancellor Vexthor, the council leader began, you stand accused of war crimes. The massacre of 12,000 human civilians. The deliberate targeting of evacuation vessels, the attempted genocide of the human species. How do you answer? Vexthor said nothing. What could he say? The evidence was overwhelming. His own ships had recorded the massacre. His own orders had launched the invasion. The humans have submitted their demands, the council leader continued. Full reparations for all damages. Restrictions on Velkrani military forces. A formal apology. And trials for all Velkrani commanders involved in war crimes. The Velcrani Imperium will never agree to such terms. Vexthor finally spoke, his voice defiant. Choi stepped forward. The Velcrani Imperium no longer has a choice. Your fleet is destroyed. Your allies have abandoned you. Your own officers are surrendering rather than continue this war. You started this conflict believing humans were weak. You learned the truth. Now you pay the price. The council voted. The terms were accepted. The war was officially over. Dr. Park Minji published her research paper 3 months after the war ended. Understanding Humanity. A xenoanthropological study of the deadliest species in the galaxy became required reading across the Galactic Council. Her thesis was simple but profound. Humans were the only known species that had evolved while fighting themselves. Every other spacefaring species had achieved unity before developing advanced technology. They had learned cooperation, peace, and harmony on their homeworlds. Humans had learned war. For 10,000 years, Minji wrote, humans fought each other in endless conflicts. They developed every form of warfare imaginable. Infantry tactics, naval warfare, air combat, guerrilla resistance, siege warfare, psychological operations. They created weapons of incredible destructiveness, then learned to fight without those weapons. They built entire philosophies around the concept of war. When humans finally reached space, she continued, they brought all of this knowledge with them. They are not more violent than other species. They are a penis more experienced at violence. They understand war at a level that other species who learned peace early never can. This makes them incredibly dangerous, but it also makes them valuable. Because humans understand that the best warriors are those who have fought the longest, and the best wars are those that are never fought at all. Admiral Kim Hyeon stood at the window of her office looking out at Earth. The planet had survived. Damaged, yes, scarred by orbital battles and desperate defenses, but alive. Her assistant entered with a message. Admiral, the Council has requested that you address them. They want to understand how we won. Kim Hyeon smiled slightly. We won because we had to. Because surrender wasn't an option. Because humans are very good at doing impossible things when survival is at stake. She thought back to all the battles, all the ships lost, all the people who had died. The victory had been expensive, but it had been necessary. Tell the Council I'll speak to them, she said. But my message will be simple. Don't threaten humanity. Don't attack our people, because we will pay any price to protect our own. Any price at all. Captain Han Jiho was promoted to admiral and given command of the new fleet being built to replace the losses. He stood in the shipyard watching the construction and thought about all they had learned. We were underestimated, he said to Dr. Park Minji, who had come to visit. They saw 30 years of spaceflight and thought we were inexperienced. They didn't see 10,000 years of warfare. They saw our technology and thought we were primitive, Minji agreed. They didn't see our adaptability, our creativity, our refusal to give up. Do you think they'll attack us again? Jiho asked. No, Minji said firmly. They've learned their lesson. But others might need to learn it too. That's why we need to stay strong. Colonel Shin Junho established the first Combined Arms Academy, teaching military tactics to allied alien species. He was surprised by how many wanted to learn. Your species fights differently than we do, a young alien officer said to him. You use tactics we've never considered. That's because you've never had to, Shin explained patiently. Your species achieved peace before reaching space. You learned to fight as a unified civilization. We learned to fight while we were still divided. We had to develop tactics to fight enemies who thought like us, who knew our weaknesses, who were as creative as we were. It sounds exhausting, the alien said. It was, Shin agreed, but it made us very good at war. Sometimes I wish we weren't. But wishes don't change reality. Nasomin returned to her colony world, Taisan, and resumed teaching. But she was different now. Her students were different too. They had all fought in the resistance. They had all seen war. Will there be peace now? One student asked her. I hope so, Nasomin said. But hope isn't a strategy. We need to stay prepared, stay strong. Remember what we learned. The galaxy respects strength and fears weakness. We showed them we're strong. Now we need to show them we're worth respecting for more than Apina's our military power. She looked at her students. You all fought bravely. You defended our world. I'm proud of you. But being a warrior is Apina's one part of being human. Now we need to show the galaxy what else we can be. Artists, scientists, teachers, friends. The memorial on Kepler 4 Murae 2b was completed 1 year after the war ended. 12,000 names carved in black stone, one for every person who had died in the massacre that started the war. At the dedication ceremony, Ambassador Choi Daiho read the inscription. They died because someone decided our species was weak, because someone decided our lives were worth nothing, because someone made the worst mistake in galactic history. We remember them, we honor them, and we promise that their deaths will never be meaningless. Because of them, humanity is now respected. Because of them, the galaxy knows our strength. Because of them, no one will dare threaten us again. Sub-Marshal Verkoth attended the ceremony. He had been granted asylum on Earth after his surrender. He stood before the memorial and placed a Velkrani honor marker at its base. "I cannot undo what my people did," he said quietly, "but I can bear witness. I can remember, and I can work to ensure it never happens again." He became a liaison between humans and Velkrani, helping the two species understand each other. It was slow, difficult work, but Verkoth believed it was important. The alternative was more war, and he had seen enough war to last several lifetimes. Priestess Melsara of the Ashanti Collective wrote her final report on the human Velkrani War. It was distributed to every species in the Galactic Council. "Humanity is neither good nor evil," she wrote. "They are capable of great compassion and terrible violence. They will help those in need and protect those who cannot protect themselves. But if you threaten their families, their homes, their people, they will destroy you without mercy or hesitation. They are not the strongest species. They are not the most advanced. But they may be the most dangerous, because they have learned through thousands of years of conflict how to win when winning seems impossible. They have learned to adapt, to endure, to never surrender. My recommendation to the Galactic Council is simple. Befriend humanity. Learn from them. Work with them. But never ever threaten them. Because if you do, you will discover that they are not simply another species. They are survivors. And survivors do whatever it takes to survive." 2 years after the war ended, a new species entered Council space. The Draxan were aggressive, expansionist, and confident in their military superiority. They had conquered 12 worlds in their home region and were looking for new territories. They scanned human space and saw relatively few ships, modest defenses, and a species that had a penis been in space for a few decades. "These humans look weak," the Draxan commander reported to his fleet. "We should be able to take their worlds easily." The Galactic Council immediately sent a warning. "Do not engage the humans. They are protected under Council law." "We do not fear your council," the Draxan commander replied. "And we certainly do not fear these primitive humans." Councillor Treshavar, a reptilian species that had watched the entire human Velkrani war, sent a personal message to the Draxan. "I strongly advise you to reconsider. The humans may appear weak, but appearances are deceiving. Why should we fear them?" the Draxan commander asked. "Our fleet is powerful. Our technology is advanced. What can these barely spacefaring primitives do to us?" Treshavar was silent for a moment, then pulled up images from the war. Burning Velkrani ships, captured bases, the shattered remains of the Velkrani fleet at the Battle of Earth. 2 years ago, the Velkrani Imperium asked the same question, Treshavar said quietly. They were one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. They had thousands of ships, 3,000 years of military tradition. They thought humans were weak, primitive, and easily conquered. The Draxan commander looked at the images. "What happened?" "The humans destroyed them. Not quickly,